Greetings and welcome back to the gallery. I am the curator and host, Robert Cooper. Now, for all of my 6 viewers who may be wondering where in the hell I've been for the past half of year, I absolutely have no excuse. I just wasn't making any videos for the past 6 months, but I am back now, so all 6 of you can rejoice. Currently, it is February, and that means it's Black History Month. So for this episode, I have a list of about 16 Black photographers to discuss for Black History Month. Being that I have a Pan-African ideology, when it comes to Black History Month, I believe that Black History Month is about all of Black history, not just African American history. So for this list, I have included photographers from across the African diaspora. Photographers from the United States, from the Caribbean, from the UK, and of course, from Africa. So sit back, learn about some photographers that you may not know. And if you do know them, in the comment section below, tell me what you like about these photographers. The first photographer to discuss in this Black History Month celebration is Nigerian-born Chi Modu. Modu has taken some of the most iconic photographs in hip-hop history, including photos of Tupac, Mobb Deep, Snoop Dogg, the Wu-Tang Clan, Ice Cube, Nas, and the Notorious B.I.G., amongst many others. While working for the Source magazine, aka the Hip Hop Bible, Modu shot over 30 covers for the magazine. He also shot the album cover for Mobb Deep's very first album, as well as promotional photos for Craig Mack, and also photos for Snoop Dogg's debut album, Doggy Style. Unfortunately, Modu passed away last year at the very young age of 54.
When I saw hip hop coming up, I knew it was important. First of all, you can't turn away from the beat, right? The beat is magical. And then a bunch of young people doing some things that's really like world changing. So I wanted to be a part of it. And I had a skill that was needed, that I could take a picture, right? And so because of that, I became a part of this movement because I was the one showing people what it looked like. And a friend of mine in Finland said, you know, it's funny, we can hear the music, but it's really through your pictures that we can see it.
Jamaican photographer Peter Dean Rickards. Rickards is one of my favorite photographers of all time. He has definitely been a big inspiration to my photography as well. You can get a preview of Jamaican culture through his camera and his lens. The music, the fashion, the beauty of the people, the beauty of the land, and even the violence of the country. They are all captured on his website, The Afflicted Yard. Rickards has shot for Rolling Stone magazine, Vanity Fair, Vogue, New York Times, and ID, amongst others. He has photographed reggae and dancehall artists, including Sizzla, Bounty Killer, Ninja Man, Mavado, and Lee Scratch Perry. Unfortunately, Peter Dean Rickards passed away in 2014 at the very young age of 45. Neil Kenlock, a British photographer of Jamaican descent. Kenlock was a staff photographer for the West Indian World, one of the United Kingdom's first Black newspapers. He specialized in fashion, beauty, taking pictures of celebrities and cultural lifestyles of Black Britons. During the 60s and 70s, Kenlock became the official photographer for the British Black Panther movement. He also co-founded the Black lifestyle magazine, Root, which is like a British ebony magazine.
Yes, these images are very close to my heart. They inspire me. You know, they made a record of the community. It tells a true story of how, you know, we settled in Britain.
Carrie Mae Weems. She uses her photography to focus on serious issues facing African Americans in this country, such as racism, sexism, personal identity, and politics. Her first collection of photos was in 1983, titled Family Pictures and Stories. She used her photography to tell the story of her family and the movement of Black families from the South to the North. Her most famous collection of photos is the Kitchen Table series, which she said questioned the ideas about the role of tradition, the nature of family, monogamy, polygamy, relationships between men and women, between women and their children, and between women and other women, underscoring the critical problems and the possible resolves.
This historical body has not been, for the most part, the subject of these great painters. From the 19th century or the 20th century, or as we move into the 21st century, it is not a part of their imagination, is not a part of their fantasy. But of course, art has a great deal to do with imagining the unimaginable.
Peter Magubane from South Africa. Magubane photographed for the legendary Drum magazine, which was known for its reporting on Black life during the age of apartheid. He photographed some of South Africa's most important moments, including the Sharpeville massacre in 1960, Mandela's Rivonia trial in 1964, and the Soweto uprising in 1976. During his time photographing for Drum magazine, Magubane was arrested numerous times covering the events of apartheid South Africa.
I used my camera as a gun. I was prepared to die for my freedom. No one was going to stop me from taking pictures.
Another photographer from South Africa, Ernest Cole. Like Magubane, Cole also shot for Drum magazine, and he also photographed the evils of apartheid in South Africa. In 1966, Cole was able to escape South Africa after fooling the authorities by telling them that he was colored and not black. He secretly brought with him his photographs that he had been taken of apartheid South Africa to New York City. He brought those photographs to Magnum Photos, which was turned into a book called House of Bondage, which was banned in his native South Africa.
Ernest Cole was a young black man brought up in a black township near Pretoria, Mamelodi, in South Africa. Ernest Cole was unquestionably an intimate of black life. He knew its richness, and he knew its humiliation and hardship under apartheid. And he showed these qualities most eloquently in his photographs.
From the 313, Ming Smith. And for all of those who do not know, the 313 is Detroit, Michigan. Smith is the first African-American female photographer whose work was acquired by the Museum of Modern Arts in New York City. Smith was a member of the venerable Kamwangi Workshop Photography Collective. And for the 6 of you who watch this show, you will remember that I interviewed Buford Smith back in episode 12. He was also a member of the Kamwangi Workshop group. Her photography is in collections at the Whitney Museum of American Art, the Detroit Institute of Art, and the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture.
When I photograph, I needed that for my soul. It's a way of reassuring myself. As an artist, I think that a lot of the exploration is just dealing with your own survival. The spiritualism of it, the visual content, the humanism, the experience, what was happening is in the artwork.
Chuck Stewart. For those that know me, you will know that I love nothing more than music. I love all forms of music, especially jazz music, and I especially think jazz photography is the greatest of all the music photography, which is why I love Chuck Stewart's photography, because he is a jazz photographer. He has photographed jazz legends such as John Coltrane, Max Roach, Charles Mingus, Sarah Vaughan, Dinah Washington, and Miles Davis, and many, many more, too much to name. Stewart was recognized with the Milt Hinton Award of Excellence in Jazz Photography, and the Jazz at Lincoln Center presented an exhibition titled Looking at the Music, the Jazz Photography of Chuck Stewart. This exhibit ran from November 2008 to February 2009.
Well, I got a camera. My mother gave me a camera when I was 13, on my 13th birthday. And for some miraculous reason, that same day, Marian Anderson came to my school. And so I was happy to have the camera. It was a 616 box brown. And I took pictures of her and various and sundry of the students and so on. And when the pictures came back from the drugstore, everybody wanted some. Well, this was during the Depression. I think I was 13 at the time. So that had to be like the beginning of the 40s, 1940s or 41, something like that. And everybody wanted some of the pictures. So when I got through selling pictures, I made $2. And at the time I was getting a quarter a week allowance. So I said, this is for me.
Robert L. Haggins. Haggins was Malcolm X's personal photographer from 1959 until 1965. He photographed Malcolm during his speeches and during his personal time with his wife and his kids. He also photographed for Time magazine, People, and Cosmopolitan. His photography has been exhibited in Africa, Europe, and Japan.
In the beginning, it was a photographic thing from the newspaper. Mm-hmm. Then I quit my job to work for Malcolm as his personal photographer. And the reason why, at that time, Malcolm had an uncanny sense of the value of the media and the value of pictures. He knew that the media was creating him in terms of being a monster. All of those early photographs of Malcolm depicted him as some kind of monster, fists clenched and blazing eyes and teeth clenched, all this sort of thing. So he wanted me to make photographs of him as a human being. And it was during this process that we became friends, and my relationship changed. I no longer was an impartial journalist as a photographer. I began to take pictures and also to think in terms of what kind of contribution I could make to him.
Charles Teeny Harris. For 39 years, from 1936 to 1975, Harris chronicled Black life in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the celebrities who visited there as well. His photos often appeared in the Pittsburgh Courier, which was an African-American weekly newspaper that was published in Pittsburgh from 1907 until 1966. He photographed legendary Negro League baseball players of the Homestead Braves and the Pittsburgh Crawfords. In 2001, 3 years after his death, a collection of 80,000 of his negatives were purchased by the Carnegie Museum of Art.
I think Teeny's work is highly relevant today and still speaks to us today because he, in every shot, is eager to capture the real humanity of his photographic subjects. And that's what makes his individual photos so powerful. But when you get to see a fuller range of his photos, you start to appreciate the diversity and complexity of African-American life in Pittsburgh, and by extension, African-American life more generally. And I think in that sense, and as a way of continuing to goad people into learning how to have more nuanced conversations about race, about how race and segregation still persists in this day as it did in the civil rights era, and not just in America, but in other countries across the world. I think that rooting those conversations in the real humanity of Black people is tremendously powerful.
Renee Cox, another Jamaican-born photographer. Her work is considered part of the feminist art movement in the United States. She primarily uses herself in her photos and often appears nude to promote self-love and to deconstruct stereotypes and reconfiguring the Black woman's body. Her Black feminist art is in full display through her series Queen Nanny of the Maroons, Rajay, and Yo Mama's Last Supper.
Nanny is a national hero in Jamaica. She's actually on our $500 bill, which is worth $20 now. Literally. Nanny has always been somebody that has always fascinated me. I embraced her character, yeah, because she was a strong woman. She was a great warrior, Obeah woman, and a philosopher, and everything else. I'm gonna bring her into, a modern setting, and I'm also gonna try to make historical references visually of what she may have been like. And that's basically what I think I accomplished with her.
Ozier Muhammad. He is the grandson of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the founder of the Nation of Islam. As a photojournalist, Muhammad has worked for the New York Times, the Charlotte Observer, Newsday, and Ebony. In 1984, he won the George Polk Award for News Photography. In 1985, he shared the Pulitzer Prize for International Reporting along with Joshua Friedman and Dennis Bell for their series on the plight of the hungry in Africa.
I first became interested in photojournalism while I was in high school. And the reason why the interest developed was because I was raised in a community that was in the news in the very early 60s through the mid-60s. There was quite a lot of reporting done on the community that I was raised in, which was the Nation of Islam. And my grandfather was actually the founder of the nation, Elijah Muhammad. So that interest was generated by him, but not only my grandfather, but also members and people who helped my grandfather to bring others into the community. People such as Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X.
Esther Anderson, not to be confused with Esther Anderson from Sanford & Son. And yes, she is another Jamaican-born photographer. She had an intimate relationship with Bob Marley and took iconic photos of him as well as Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer. Anderson helped start the Jamaican music label Island Records in the early 1960s. She is also an actress and filmmaker, and she co-produced The Harder They Come, which helped to launch the film industry in Jamaica.
I ended up doing these pictures of him to help him with his career and to actually launch his career, because he had put out an album for Ireland and nothing had happened. And when he came to America, he was trying to do some promotion in radio and stuff. So when he came back to Jamaica, I said, my partner, Chris Blackwell, said, why don't you invite him to come with us around the islands, because we're going to Trinidad to the carnival. And I started taking the pictures there. But when we come back to Hope Road, he disappeared. And I had to get Peter to go and get him. And when he came back, I talked to him. And we went out to the seaside. So we started the session in Hope Road. So one of the pictures, him smoking and sitting under the mango tree and stuff like that, talking to other people. And so it's all in Hope Road, which is now the Bob Marley Museum.
Sanle Sory. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He is from Burkina Faso. In 1960, he founded the Volta Photo Studio in Bobo Dioulasso. I hope I pronounced that correctly too. In 2018, the Art Institute of Chicago presented an exhibition titled Volta Photo, starring Sanle Sory and the people of Bobo Dioulasso in the small but musically mighty country of Upper Volta, now Burkina Faso. In 2021, the fashion designer Grace Wells Bonner released a line of clothing titled Volta Jazz, which was inspired by Sory's photographs.
C'est Sory Sanle, ancien photographe à Bobo Dioulasso. Et ma fonction, bon, la photographie, je l'ai appris avec les Ghanéens. Et j'ai eu l'idée de choisir la photographie parce que c'est un métier que j'ai aimé depuis bas âge, puisque j'aimais dessiner. Parce que quand je vois un objet, j'essaie de recopier ça sur un papier pour voir si ça se ressemble, quoi. Et j'ai toujours pensé à ça. Pour qu'un jour, je sois photographe pour faire mieux que ça.
Fabiola Jean-Louis, a Haitian-born photographer. Her work examines the intersectionality of the Black experience, particularly that of women, to address the absence and imbalance of historical representation of African American and Afro-Caribbean people. She uses her photography to recreate elaborate 18th century inspired portraiture that centers Black women using clothes and accessory that she creates herself. She has had residencies at the Museum of Art and Design in New York City, the Lux Art Institute in San Diego, and the Andrew Friedman Home in the Bronx.
Because memory is important. It's important to remember what happened. You know, I firmly believe in that saying, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from. So the Black experience is not linear, right? So it's important while analyzing history in America to also look at, you know, European history, just to try to analyze how we ended up where we are. At the same time, it's extremely important to celebrate the Black body.
Angele Etoundi Essamba. She is of Cameroonian descent. Essamba's work lies at the intersection of the social gender and the artistic field. Her photos have been exhibited in Amsterdam, Latin America, Europe, Arab Emirates, and the United States. Essamba is one of the most acclaimed African women photographers of her generation. She joins the spirit of humanistic photography with a strong attachment to the values of communion.
What I try to immortalize is just things we are dealing with in our daily life. It's about ourselves, about our aspiration, our pride, our what we want to reach, or how we see ourselves, who we are, where we want to go. So also a lot about identity, of course. And yeah, these are things that I am still dealing with, of course, as a woman, as a Black woman in a white world.
All right. That was my list of about 16 photographers for Black History Month. There were so many photographers out there I wanted to discuss, but these were the ones that I just finally took me a long time to just break this list down, but these are the ones that I felt like discussing for this episode. there's a comment section below. So if I did not talk about a photographer that you felt like needed to be discussed or that you want to introduce me to, feel free to write that in the comment section below. And as always, if you are new to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can be alerted to brand new episodes that I upload. And I promise this year, I'm gonna be more disciplined in uploading more content. Follow me on Instagram at rcooperphotography, rcoopershootsfilm, and rcooperthegallery. Also, go to my website, robertcoopermedia.com. Very shortly, I will be on Patreon so that you can support my artistic endeavors in the near future. I thank you for watching. Blessed love.